Amara adjusted her wig in front of her small mirror, practicing the confident smile she had perfected over the years. With a single tap, she went live on her phone. "Good evening, my beautiful people," she began, her voice filled with excitement. To the thousands of people watching online, she was Amara Johnson, the glamorous CEO of Glimmer Tech, one of the fastest rising companies in the country. She wore a designer dress borrowed from a friend, and behind her, the background was decorated with props she carefully arranged to look like an expensive office. "Today, I want to inspire every young woman out there," she said, flashing her perfect teeth. "If I can build a company at this age, you can do even more." The comments poured in, praise, admiration, and love. Strangers called her a role model, some begged for business advice, while others congratulated her for being engaged to Damian, the most influential businessman in the country. Amara's heart swelled with pride. She had created the perfect lie, and the world believed it. The truth was far different. Glimmer Tech wasn't hers. The real CEO was her childhood friend, Chioma. Unlike Amara, Chioma disliked attention. She preferred to work quietly, focusing on innovation and growth instead of social media fame. To Amara, this was an opportunity too good to ignore. Chioma never appeared online, so Amara boldly stepped into the spotlight, presenting herself as the face of the company. Slowly, her lies began to pay off, brands sent her offers. She signed contracts and became a brand ambassador. With the money flowing in, Amara bought expensive clothes and moved into a better apartment. People in her neighborhood treated her like royalty, and she loved every moment of it. Yet, deep inside, she knew her success was built on a fragile foundation, but Amara didn't care. For her, the lie had already become her truth. She told herself Chioma wouldn't mind because she wasn't interested in fame anyway. And as long as no one dug too deep, she believed her double life would remain perfect. Damian was only 32, yet his name carried weight across the country. He was the founder of a thriving tech empire, a man who had turned ideas into fortune before many of his peers had even finished school. Young, vibrant, and strikingly handsome, Damian was the kind of man people admired not only for his wealth but for his sharp mind and fearless drive. He was also single, though countless women dreamed of being linked to him, so when he began hearing rumors that a woman was parading as his fiancée on social media, his curiosity was piqued. At first, Damian laughed it off. People made up wild stories about him all the time. But this was different. Whoever she wasn't just using his name. She was attaching herself to a company he had been monitoring from a distance, Glimmer Tech. He respected Glimmer Tech's rising reputation, and the thought of his name being tied to its leadership caught his attention. He ordered his team to dig into the matter quietly. Soon, a name surfaced, Amara Johnson. Videos of her flooded the internet, Amara posing as the CEO of Glimmer Tech, speaking with confidence, and boldly claiming to be his soon-to-be wife. Damian was impressed, not with her lies, but with her courage. She was audacious, shameless even, but he knew the truth had to come out. One evening, Damian decided to meet her in person, but not as the powerful man everyone knew. He dressed simply, blending into the crowd, and waited for her at an event she had advertised on her social media. When he finally approached her, introducing himself casually, Amara gave him a dismissive look. To her, he was just another ordinary admirer. "Excuse me," she said with a condescending smile, "I don't have time for small people. Do you know who I am? I am the CEO of Glimmer Tech and the fiancé of Damian, one of the most influential men in this country. So please, don't waste my time." Damian studied her carefully, hiding his amusement. She had no idea she was insulting the very man she pretended to be engaged to. Instead of reacting in anger, he smiled politely and stepped back, already planning his next move. He wanted to see how far she would take her web of lies before reality caught up with her. Chioma had no idea her name was being paraded across social media. While Amara was busy living a life of deception, Chioma kept her focus on what truly mattered, her work. As the real CEO of Glimmer Tech, she spent long hours in the office, developing strategies, building partnerships, and pushing her company to new heights. She was passionate but private, preferring the quiet satisfaction of achievement over public applause. For her, success wasn't about likes or followers, it was about real impact. Her life began to change the day she met Damian Okoye at a charity gala. The event was filled with dignitaries, business leaders, and celebrities, but Chioma attended only to support a cause she believed in. She wasn't dressed in glittering gowns or flashy jewelry, just a modest but elegant dress that reflected her personality. Damian noticed her immediately, not because she was loud or attention-seeking, but because she carried herself with quiet confidence. When he struck up a conversation, Chioma spoke with intelligence and sincerity. She explained her company's vision with passion, her eyes glowing with determination. Damian listened, captivated. This was the real Glimmer Tech CEO, he realized. Everything about her was genuine, unlike the shallow arrogance he had seen in Amara. What surprised him most was that Chioma had no idea someone else was out there claiming to be her. As their conversation flowed, Damian felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: ease. Most women he met were more interested in his money or status, but Chioma treated him like a normal man. She didn't even know he was the same Damian whose name Amara had been dragging across the internet. To her, he was simply Damian, an ambitious businessman with a keen interest in technology. Over the next few weeks, Damian made excuses to see Chioma again. He visited her office under the guise of discussing business opportunities, but in truth, he just wanted to spend more time with her. Chioma found herself drawn to his energy and sharp mind. She admired his curiosity and the way he respected her opinions. Meanwhile, Amara remained clueless. She believed she was untouchable, never imagining that while she was flaunting lies, her friend and the man she pretended to be engaged to were slowly building a genuine connection. What started as casual conversations between Chioma and Damian was quietly blossoming into something neither of them expected, something real. Amara was at the peak of her fake success. Her social media following had crossed 500,000, and brands were constantly knocking on her door for partnerships. Every day she received deliveries of clothes, cosmetics, and luxury items from companies hoping she would endorse them. She flaunted each gift online, acting as if she had bought them with her own money. To the outside world, she was unstoppable, a young, powerful CEO who was not only running a thriving business but also engaged to the most eligible bachelor in the country, Damian Okoye, but the truth was catching up with her, slowly and quietly. Damian had already seen through her act, but Amara had no idea. When he first tried to approach her, dressed simply, she brushed him off. To her, he was just another random man trying to get close to her. "Do you know who I am?" she said with an arrogant laugh, adjusting her designer handbag. "I am the CEO of Glimmer Tech and the fiancé of Damian Okoye. I don't talk to nobodies." She dismissed him with a wave of her hand, leaving Damian both amused and slightly disappointed. Amara's pride grew with every lie she told. She started spending recklessly, confident that her fake empire would never collapse. Whenever people praised her online, she convinced herself that her lies were no longer lies, they had become her reality. At events, she carried herself like royalty, walking past people with her nose in the air, certain that she was superior to everyone around her. However, cracks had started to appear. A few journalists questioned her rise to fame. Some industry insiders whispered that she didn't seem knowledgeable about Glimmer Tech's operations. At one press conference, when asked a technical question about the company's new project, she stammered and gave a vague answer. The crowd laughed it off, but some left suspicious. Amara quickly covered it up with a glamorous photo shoot the next day, distracting her followers with her beauty and confidence. Meanwhile, Damian observed quietly, watching how far she would go. He wasn't angry, at least not yet. Instead, he was curious. He wanted to see how Amara would behave when faced with the truth. Every lie she told, every arrogant move she made, was only tightening the web she had spun around herself. Damian knew it was only a matter of time before that web collapsed, and when it did, the fall would be heavy. While Amara was busy building her empire of lies, Chioma's quiet and genuine life was unfolding in a very different way. After the charity gala, Damian found himself constantly thinking about her. There was something refreshing about Chioma, her simplicity, her humility, and her intelligence. Unlike the pretender who claimed to be his fiancée, Chioma was the kind of woman who didn't need to prove herself to anyone. She was confident in who she was, and that alone made her stand out. Damian began visiting Chioma more often under the pretense of discussing business. He asked her about Glimmertech's goals, its challenges, and its future. Each time, Chioma spoke with passion and knowledge that could never be faked. Her words revealed her as the true force behind the company. Damian admired her even more when he realized she wasn't chasing fame or validation, she only cared about building something meaningful. Over time, their conversations shifted from business to personal matters. Damian discovered that Chioma loved reading African literature, enjoyed quiet walks, and had a soft spot for street food. She laughed freely, something he rarely saw in his corporate world filled with stiff faces and hidden agendas. Chioma, in turn, found Damian easy to talk to. He listened attentively, respected her opinions, and never once tried to overshadow her with his success. To her, he was simply Damian. A hardworking young man who shared her values. As they grew closer, Damian kept his identity hidden. He didn't want Chioma to treat him differently because of his wealth or fame. Instead, he wanted her to see him for who he truly was. And Chioma did just that. She liked him for his honesty and humility, not his status. Meanwhile, Amara was becoming restless. She noticed Chioma had been smiling more often and seemed distracted, though she didn't know why. Amara assumed it had something to do with a new business deal and ignored it. Little did she know that her lies were slowly leading her into a trap, because while she flaunted a fake engagement, the real Damian was falling in love with her best friend. The bond between Chioma and Damian grew stronger with every meeting. What started as casual conversations was now blossoming into something deeper, something neither of them had planned for. It was a quiet love story forming in the shadows of Amara's deceit. Amara's fame had reached its peak. Her pictures were on billboards, she was invited to sit on panels, and she even signed an ambassador deal with an international beauty brand. To her followers, she was unstoppable. But behind the glamour, cracks were slowly beginning to show. It started with a journalist who had been following her rise. Something about Amara's story didn't add up. Her timelines were inconsistent, and her supposed achievements seemed vague. At one point, she claimed to have started Glimmertech 5 years earlier, but in another interview, she mentioned 3 years. The journalist began digging deeper. He reached out to former colleagues, industry insiders, and even employees of Glimmertech. None of them had ever seen Amara in the office. They all knew Chioma as their boss, not the flashy woman on social media. Amara continued to live large, attending high-profile parties and posting pictures in luxurious settings. Her followers cheered her on, and that made her believe she was untouchable. Whenever doubt tried to creep in, she drowned it with another photo shoot or a flashy giveaway. She convinced herself that no one would ever dare challenge her. But things began to change when she was invited to speak at a business conference. During the Q&A session, a young man stood up and asked her a technical question about Glimmertech's latest software launch. Amara froze. She stammered, gave a shallow answer, and quickly changed the topic. The audience laughed politely, but whispers spread across the room. Some left shaking their heads, wondering how the so-called CEO could know so little about her own company. That evening, the journalist's suspicions deepened. He published a small article questioning Amara's credibility. It didn't make front-page news yet, but it was enough to stir conversations online. Some followers defended her fiercely. But others began asking questions. Screenshots of her inconsistent statements started circulating. Slowly, doubt crept into the very foundation of her fame. Meanwhile, Damian was quietly observing everything. He had tried to approach her before, but she treated him like dirt. Now, watching her lies unravel was almost amusing. He knew it was only a matter of time before the truth came out fully. What Amara didn't realize was that while she was clinging desperately to her fake world, the real world, Chioma and Damian's growing connection, was becoming stronger and more unshakable every day. Damian decided it was time to stop watching from the sidelines. Amara's lies had gone too far, and though the truth would soon expose her, he wanted to see how she would act if forced to stand beside Chioma. He arranged a private dinner, sending invitations to both women. Amara, believing it was another opportunity to showcase herself as a celebrated CEO, arrived dressed in a glittering gown that screamed for attention. She walked into the room as though the world belonged to her, certain all eyes would be on her. Chioma, on the other hand, came in quietly. She wore a simple but elegant dress, nothing flashy, yet her grace outshone everything around her. Throughout the dinner, Damian, who acted as the moderator, directed most of his questions to Chioma. "Tell me," he asked, leaning forward with genuine interest, "what inspired Glimmertech's latest innovation?" Chioma, unaware of Amara's online lies, spoke with passion about her team's journey, their struggles, and their victories. Her words were filled with knowledge, and her authenticity lit up the room. Amara grew restless. Every time Chioma answered, she jumped in with bold, exaggerated statements, trying to redirect the spotlight. "Actually," she interrupted at one point, "I was the one who pushed that project." Chioma only handled the minor details. Her words sounded forced, and Damian's eyes twinkled with amusement. He knew exactly who the true leader was. The contrast between the two women could not have been clearer. Chioma was real, grounded, and intelligent. Amara was desperate, arrogant, and drowning in her own fabrications. Damian listened patiently, but the decision in his heart had already been made. Chioma was the kind of woman he respected and wanted in his life. By the end of the evening, Amara's frustration had reached its peak. As the guests departed, she pulled Damian aside. "Why all these attitudes? Are you trying to make me appear stupid? Do you know who I am?" she hissed, pointing at Chioma. "She is just my employee. I am the real deal, the CEO of Glimmertech and the fiancé of Domaine Okoye. 100 of you can't make me feel less of myself. Get that into your broken, useless skull." Damian looked at her with a calm smile and replied softly, "You have no idea who I really am, Amara. But soon, you will." "You are a nobody," Amara replied, "wanna be trying to mingle with the high and mighty, but you are too broke to meet up." She then hissed and walked out on him. The storm finally arrived, and it was fiercer than Amara could ever have imagined. For weeks, the investigative journalist had been quietly collecting evidence. He interviewed Glimmertech employees, studied company records, and compared Amara's public claims with official documents. When his report was complete, he released it with a headline that shook the internet. The article spread like wildfire. Screenshots of Amara's inconsistent statements were displayed side by side. Contracts she claimed to have signed were proven fake. Pictures she posted in her office were revealed to be taken secretly when Chioma was away. Most shocking of all was the revelation that Chioma, not Amara, was the true CEO of Glimmertech. Within hours, hashtags calling out Amara's lies dominated social media. The very people who once praised her turned against her. Brand deals were cancelled, invitations withdrawn, and angry fans flooded her pages with insults. "Fraud. Liar. Scammer," they wrote. The internet that had built her suddenly tore her apart, piece by piece. Amara's phone buzzed endlessly with calls from companies demanding refunds for ambassador deals. Her so-called friends, who once enjoyed her lavish parties, disappeared overnight. No one wanted to be associated with her anymore. For the first time, Amara felt the weight of her lies pressing down on her chest. In a fit of rage and desperation, she stormed into Chioma's office. Her eyes were red, her voice shaking. "This is your fault," she shouted, slamming her hands on the desk. "If you had just stayed quiet, no one would have found out. You ruined everything for me." Chioma looked at her calmly, her expression firm. "Amara, you ruined everything for yourself. You chose to lie, to cheat, and to steal a life that wasn't yours. You thought the truth would never catch up with you, but it always does. Amara's lips trembled, but no words came out. For once, she had no audience, no applause, no likes or comments to defend her. She stood there, broken and exposed, while Chioma turned away and continued her work. The world had finally seen Amara for what she truly was, a pretender. In the days following Amara's exposure, the noise of the scandal slowly began to fade. Glimmer Tech, though momentarily shaken by the incident, quickly regained its dignity under Chioma's steady leadership. She addressed the media with grace, clarifying her role without arrogance or bitterness. People admired her composure, and the company's reputation soared higher than ever. Meanwhile, Damian knew it was finally time to reveal his true identity. For weeks, he had watched Chioma handle herself with wisdom and dignity, unlike her former friend. He had seen her passion for her company, her kindness to her staff, and her honesty in every word. She had unknowingly captured his heart. One evening, he invited Chioma to dinner at an exclusive but quiet restaurant. She hesitated at first, unsure of his intentions, but his respectful persistence convinced her to accept. When she arrived, she noticed he wasn't dressed extravagantly, just a simple shirt and trousers. Yet, there was something about his calm confidence that stood out. As they sat down, Damian took a deep breath. "Chioma," he began, his voice sincere, "there's something I need to tell you. I haven't been completely open about who I am." Chioma frowned slightly, unsure of where the conversation was going. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I am Damian Okeke," he said, his gaze fixed on hers. "The man Amara claimed to be engaged to. I am also the heir to the Okeke Group, one of the largest investment firms in the country." Chioma's eyes widened in shock. "Wait. You're that Damian?" She remembered the name from headlines, business magazines, and whispered conversations in corporate circles. He was one of the youngest and most influential entrepreneurs in the nation. "Yes," he replied softly. "But I needed you to see me as a man first, not as a title. That's why I didn't announce myself immediately. I wanted to know who you truly are, away from the glitz and pretenses." Chioma sat in silence for a moment, overwhelmed by the revelation. Then, slowly, a smile formed on her lips. "And what did you find?" she asked quietly. Damian leaned closer, his voice tender. "I found a woman of integrity, strength, and beauty. A woman I don't just respect, but one I have fallen deeply in love with." Her heart skipped a beat. For the first time in a long while, Chioma felt seen, not for her company, not for her position, but for who she was. The weeks that followed were like a sunrise after a storm. With Amara's lies fully exposed, the world turned its attention toward Chioma and Damian. Their story began to circulate not as a scandal, but as a refreshing tale of honesty, resilience, and unexpected love. Damian and Chioma started appearing together publicly. At first, Chioma was hesitant, still adjusting to the reality that the man she had known in his simplicity was one of the nation's most powerful young businessmen. But Damian was patient with her, ensuring that every step they took was grounded in sincerity. He admired her humility, and she admired his refusal to let wealth blind his humanity. Soon, Damian made his intentions clear. During a small, intimate gathering of family and close friends, he stood before everyone and declared his love. "Chioma," he said, his eyes fixed on her, "from the moment I truly saw you, I knew you were the one. You are my partner in every sense, strong, kind, and true. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Chioma's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Damian," she whispered, and the room erupted with cheers. Their engagement became official, not through pretenses or lies, but through genuine love and respect. Meanwhile, Amara's life had crumbled. She was jobless, friendless, and the subject of endless ridicule. The same people who once admired her now crossed the street to avoid her. Invitations stopped coming, and brand endorsements turned to lawsuits. She could barely step out without whispers following her. One day, as fate would have it, Amara spotted Chioma and Damian together at a charity event. They looked radiant, Damian speaking confidently to the press, Chioma standing proudly beside him. For the first time, Amara felt not anger but a heavy wave of shame. She realized that all along, she had tried to live a life of lies while the real blessing had been beside her in the form of true friendship. But now it was too late. Months later, Chioma and Damian tied the knot in a beautiful wedding attended by family, friends, and dignitaries. The event was celebrated not for extravagance, but for the authenticity of their journey. They became a symbol of truth winning over deceit, love triumphing over pretense. As for Amara, she faded into the background of the very society she once tried to impress. In the end, it was simple: integrity built empires, while pretenses built nothing but shame.